Welcome back to another analysis. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a mission that took place at West Point's 2010 Spring Combat Classic. Before I get into any of the action, I just want to give you the lay of the land. I was on the red team, so our base was at the top of the hill. The field for this game is short and wide. The bases are across the short length, the short side of the field. One base on top of the hill, one base at the bottom of the hill. So the red B on the right side of the screen, that's pointing towards the red base, that's my base. The blue B in the bottom right corner is pointing towards the opposing base at the bottom of the field along the lake. The yellow arrows aren't indicating any kind of movement, they're indicating elevation changes, so they're actually pointing down the hill. So the hill goes down very steeply between the two bases, and from right to left it also drops off, though slightly more gradually. And finally, the mission itself was to get our general, the red general, down the hill all the way to the waterline where I've marked goal over on the left side. So we had to get him from the top of the hill in the middle of the field all the way to our far right flank at the bottom of the field. That was our mission. Now for the remainder of this video, players or positions that are friendly to me will be shown in red since we were the red team, and opposing players or positions will be shown in blue since they were the blue team. At the beginning of this mission, we were pinned in along the very top of the hill, fairly close to our base. I really shouldn't say we were pinned in, but we had been driven back fairly far, and blue controlled most of that side of the field. So we decided we had two options. We could either charge straight down the hill and try to punch through their lines, or we could try to punch through on our far right flank and then sneak our way down to the waterline. And we settled on the latter option. So as the arrows show here, we launched a fairly strong attack along our far right flank, the opposing left flank, attempting to break through and get a number of us around behind the opposing lines. This attack was fairly successful. As you can see, we were able to break through and extend our lines out to the right, which resulted in a situation like this. This situation, however, was not entirely stable, nor as favorable for us as we thought it was, because as we were advancing, we ran headlong into a strong opposing attack back up that hill along our right flank. This stopped us in our tracks for a few minutes, but we were able to kind of regroup and realize that we might be able to slide past the opposing attack on its left flank. Now in this picture, my position where I was is the red dot in the top center beneath the curved arrow. I began this encounter on our extreme right flank. For part of it, I was the last man in line, but we decided to have everyone cross behind me to keep moving down along the tape line so we could try to complete the objective. This play resulted in kind of an interesting situation in which the opposing team was divided into attacking both up and down the hill simultaneously, because myself, a couple of teammates, our general, and a number of other people moved down the hill along the tape line, and part of the blue team continued to pursue us, while a larger group of friendly players decided to stay in place and try to play defense and were pushed further back up the hill, resulting in the situation that is pictured. Again, I'm the red dot here, and basically as one of my teammates passed and crossed behind me, he tapped me on the back and said, "We're good, pull out." And as the curved arrow here in the middle indicates, I pulled out and went with the people trying to advance down the hill, but we left, in effect, a small rear guard still engaging the blue players that decided to attack down the hill rather than up it. This couldn't have been more than 3, maybe 5 people at most. We didn't expect them to be able to hold that position for very long. It was not a favorable position, but they were able to hold off the advancing blue players long enough that rather than pursue us down the hill, they either decided against that or lost track of us and turned around and went back up the hill. So even though we lost most of our general's escort in this engagement, we were able to disengage and then, without the opposing team knowing that we were there, able to continue on down the hill towards our objective. As I said, and as we expected, our rear guard was eventually eliminated, but at that point we had gone past that bit of action further on down the hill, through some very thick brush and undergrowth in an attempt to avoid any more opposing players rather than get involved in additional firefights that would just slow us down and make the mission more difficult. At this point, our numbers had been reduced to myself, 2 teammates, 1 additional player, and our general. Unfortunately, we were unable to avoid additional opposing players around this area. In the very brief firefight that ensued, we lost our one additional player, meaning that our general was able to move on, kind of shadowed by myself and 2 teammates, but that was it at this point. Keep in mind that our initial escort for the general was probably 8 to 10 people leaving the base. When we joined our lines and punched through the opposing lines on our far right flank, it increased to 15 to 20 people, which was then further reduced to about 5, perhaps 8, when the group got cut in half during the opposing counterattack. So now we're down to 3 players plus the general, but we are getting much closer to our objective, and at this point we have successfully gone around the majority of opposing players. As we approached our objective, our general suggested, hey, why don't you 3 go over there, throw up fire, get everyone's attention, and I'll just run around to the right and see if I can't make it to the objective before they get me. This wasn't an entirely bad idea because generals, according to the rules of this game, could be eliminated with headshots only, so it's a pretty decent chance, depending on the volume of fire that you were taking, of just running and making the objective before you took a headshot. So this is what we decided to do. We reached a clearer area near a kind of path. There was no hard cover for us to use, but we took up positions behind fairly thick chest-high bushes, so the soft and indirect cover was fairly substantial. We took up these positions while our general went around us to our right towards the far left side of the screen as the arrows indicate, and then we opened fire on the opposing players that we could see when he gave us the okay. Unfortunately, this didn't work at all pretty much, and we were all eliminated in fairly short order, having not completed the mission successfully. Here's the overview of the entire mission from start to finish, showing our initial attack, breaking through the opposing left flank, and then our repeated kind of bumps around to the right rather than engaging with opposing players. Of all of the things we did right and wrong in this mission, I think the single best thing that we did well was our focus on what would accomplish the mission rather than eliminate enemy players. So repeatedly we disengaged from firefights, even winnable firefights, because it would prevent us from completing the mission in a timely or efficient fashion. We also generally did pretty well remaining unseen when we wanted to remain unseen, but that comes with a little bit of a disclaimer because there were 2 times when we could probably have moved unseen, but we were seen. One was the firefight in the kind of top middle after we disengaged from the large firefight on the tape line, and the second was at the end when we decided to open fire and run rather than try to sneak closer. In both of those instances, we probably could have remained unseen longer once we were detected accidentally and once we revealed our own positions on purpose. But in both situations, we probably could have done better. Finally, I think the single worst thing we did was at the end when we opened fire with the objective of putting up a bit of cover and drawing attention so that our general could make the objective. We at most lasted probably 30 seconds in that engagement, and we really should have been able to last 1 to 2 minutes given the numbers and the terrain, but for whatever reason we were just sloppy in that firefight and were eliminated very quickly, which allowed the opposing players to refocus their attention on the one player that was not shooting at them at the time, our general, running for the objective. So had we perhaps been a little better in that instance, we might have had a better chance of completing the mission. So that's a look at this one long mission from the Spring Combat Classic at West Point in 2010. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.